The sun was cruel that day, the kind of heat that made sweat sting the eyes and turn the road into a ribbon of glare. In the middle of Dustin Hollow, a young woman was tied to an old wagon table, her wrists raw, her knees pressed into the splintered wood. Her name was Mara Keene, barely 23. Her hair hung in dusty tangles, once golden, now dulled by wind and dirt. Her dress had been white once too, but now it clung to her like a ragged flag, a map of everything she'd survived and everything the town wanted her to forget. Children threw pebbles. Men spat into the dust. Women crossed themselves and whispered prayers that sounded more like warnings. Mara had been accused of indecent behavior. That was a phrase they used when they couldn't say the truth out loud. The Moore Union of Dustin Hollow stood proud before her. 7 in all, faces tight with righteous anger. Their leader, Deacon Hollis Wren, held a Bible high and shouted, "This woman stand before you guilty of temptation, corruption, and shame. Let her be a lesson." The crowd answered with silence, not mercy, just the heavy stillness of agreement. Mara didn't cry. Her eyes were dry as bone. Somewhere deep behind that calm, she was already past pain, past pleading. Then a boy, maybe 15, yelled, "Let her be claimed or let her hang." The words rippled through the crowd like a stone thrown into still water. Claimed, that was the law's cruel mercy. A man could pay her fine, speak her name, and she'd live. Under protection, his ownership, his shadow. No one moved. Then from the far end of Main Street, through the shimmer of the heat, a man appeared. He walked, not rode. His boots were coated in trailed dust, his hat shadowed his face, and his coat, far too heavy for the weather, carried the long miles of a man who'd seen too much and slept too little. His name was Elias Boone, 56, a rancher and former deputy, who'd lost both his land and his family to drought years ago. Folks said he lived now in the hills beyond the creek, talking to no one but his horse and the ghosts of the past. He hadn't come to watch. He came because he heard the commotion from his pasture, and something in it wouldn't let him turn away. When he saw the girl tied up, her head bowed, something inside him moved, something he thought had died with his daughter long ago. Elias stepped forward, his voice low but steady. "What's her charge?" Deacon Wren turned, eyes narrow. "Lewd conduct. Blasphemy against the town's decency. She's brought shame upon this place." Elias looked at Mara. She didn't beg, didn't speak, just met his eyes for a fleeting second, eyes full of pride, pain, and something else, a quiet will to live. He turned back to Wren. "What's the fine?" Wren scoffed. $100 silver, more than her soul's worth. Elias reached into his coat and tossed a small leather pouch onto the ground. It hit with a dull clink, coin against dirt. "She's worth it," he said simply. The crowd gasped. "You buy her sin," someone shouted. "No," Elias said. "I'll buy her freedom." The deacon sneered, but law was law. The rope was untied, slow and grudging. Mara's hands trembled as they fell free. She almost collapsed, and Elias caught her by the arms, steady as an old oak. For a moment, the world went quiet. The only sound was the creak of the wagon rope swaying in the heat. "Under your protection, then," said Wren, voice sharp. "But mark my words, Boone, sinners don't change. They rot." Elias didn't answer. He just nodded once, lifted Mara onto his horse, and turned toward the open road. Dust rose behind them as they rode out of town, the whispers chasing them like dry leaves. No one in Dustin Hollow knew if Elias Boone had saved her or sealed his own ruin. The road from Dustin Hollow stretched out like a scar. The land was all dry bones and faded memory, a world built from silence and wind. Mara didn't speak the first hour. Neither did Elias. The horse carried them both with the slow patience of something wiser than man. By the time they reached the creek, the sun had started to fall, turning the horizon into a bruise of gold and red. Elias dismounted first, tied the reins to an old mesquite branch, and offered his hand. Mara hesitated, then took it. Her palms were blistered and rough, but her grip, light as it was, still had life in it. He led her down to the water. She knelt, cupped her hands, and drank. When she looked up, her reflection wavered, part girl, part ghost. "Why'd you do it?" she asked finally. Her voice was cracked, raw from the sun. Elias didn't look at her, because no one else would. She stared at him for a long while. They'll say you took me as your claim. I don't care what they say. Mara turned away, drawing her knees close. You should. It'll follow you, just like it followed me. Elias squatted by the fire he'd started, the orange light carving the hard lines of his face. I've had worse follow me, he said. The night grew colder. Coyotes called from far off, the sound lonesome as a prayer no one answered. When the first stars broke through the dark, she spoke again, this time quieter. They said I led men astray, that I lied, that I ruined families. But I never, her voice caught, I never touched any of them. Elias didn't interrupt. He just listened, the way men use it before words got cheap. They used me, she went on. The mayor's son came to my mother's house one night, said he'd help us pay the rent if I'd show him kindness. I sent him away. Next morning, he told everyone I'd beg him to stay. My mother lost her seam work. Our home burned 2 weeks later. Her hands shook. They said it was lightning. But there weren't no clouds that day. The fire snapped. The sound was sharp, almost cruel, in the quiet. Elias finally spoke. And you didn't run? I did, she said. Made it as far as Dustin Hollow before they found me. He nodded slowly, staring into the fire. You did nothing wrong, girl. That don't change what they believe. He looked up then, and something softened in his eyes. No, but belief ain't truth. And truth don't die just because men bury it. For the first time that day, Mara smiled, small, uncertain, but real. They ate what little he had, jerky, bread, a handful of dried apples. She thanked him for each bite like it was mercy itself. When the fire dimmed, Elias spread his coat over the ground. Rest. We'll ride north come morning. Mara hesitated. Where to? There's a place beyond the ridge. My land once. Ain't much left, but it's quiet. You can stay there till we figure something better. Her voice softened. You talk like I still got a future. Elias poked the fire, watching the sparks climb like lost stars. You do. It just ain't written yet. She lay down then, the sound of the creek steady beside her. The air smelled of smoke and dust and something faintly sweet. The kind of peace she hadn't known in years. Elias sat awake a while longer, staring into the dark. Somewhere in that firelight, he saw his daughter's face, the one he couldn't save when the fever came through. For a moment, he wondered if God had sent this girl to test what mercy he had left. When he finally lay down, Mara's quiet breathing was the only sound between them. And though the night stretched long and cold, neither of them dreamed of Dustin Hollow. But far behind them, under that same sky, Deacon Hollisran rode out with 2 men and a lantern. The girl's name wasn't done burning in his mouth. And by sunrise, Dustin Hollow would have more dust to settle. Morning came slow, with a gray hush that made the world feel older. The creek had thinned overnight, and the horses were restless. Elias rose before dawn, poured what was left of the water into a tin cup, and handed it to Mara. She drank without a word. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was steady, like the ground beneath their boots. By the time the sun cleared the ridge, Elias already knew what had to be done. He'd seen the look in her eyes the night before. Not fear, not shame, but that sharp, quiet fire that only comes when a person's tired of running. We go back, he said. Mara blinked. Back! He nodded. You can't build a life with lies chasing you. We'll end it there, where it started. She shook her head, voice trembling. They'll kill me. Not if they have to go through me first. He didn't say it like a threat, just fact, plain and solid. By mid-morning, they were riding south again. Dust trailed behind them like ghosts refusing to rest. When the first rooftops came into view, Mara's breathing turned shallow. The air seemed thicker the closer they got. And though the town still looked the same sagging saloon, same church bell hanging crooked, something in it felt colder. At the edge of the main street, Elias stopped his horse. You stay close, he said. They rode straight down the center, the sound of hooves echoing off the shuttered windows. Faces appeared, slow, curious, wary. Word traveled fast. Deacon Wren stepped out from the church porch, Bible in one hand, rifle in the other. Well, well, he said, a thin smile cutting across his face. The Savior returns. Couldn't keep your sin out in the wild, Boone. Elias dismounted, slow and deliberate. Put the rifle down, Hollis. Not till I've sent her where she belongs. Mara flinched at the sight of him, the same man who'd sentenced her in front of town. She could still feel the ruffle beneath her knees, the shame crawling up her skin. Elias stepped between them. You lied about her, he said, voice low but carrying. The crowd began to gather. A murmur moved through them like wine through dry wheat. You said she corrupted your men, Elias went on. But I heard the truth. The mayor's boy came to her house. You covered it up. That fire wasn't no accident, was it? Wren's jaw tightened. You best watch yourself, Boone. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I know enough. Elias took another step forward. You've been hiding behind that book for years. But a real preacher don't fear the truth. The deacon raised his rifle, trembling now not from fear but from pride cracking. You think you're a hero, old man? You think the town will listen to a broken rancher and a ruined girl? Before Elias could answer, Mara stepped out from behind him. Her voice was clear, steady. They'll listen to me. The crowd hushed. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. She spoke, not loud but true. She told them everything. The mayor's son, the threats, the fire, the way the town turned its back because it was easier to hate one girl than question their own. When she finished, no one moved. No one dared look at the deacon. Elias reached out, took the rifle from Wren's shaking hands, and set it gently on the ground. Mercy's a harder thing than judgment, he said. You might try it sometime. He turned to the crowd. You all saw what happened that day. You'll have to live with it, or fix it. That's on you. Then he took Mara's hand, not as a claim, but as an equal, and together they walked down that same street she'd been dragged through days before. No one stopped them. No one spoke. By the time they reached the edge of town, the sky had opened, not with rain, but with light breaking through the clouds, the kind of light that felt like a promise. They rode north again, toward the ridge, toward the quiet. Behind them, Dustin Hollow faded into the heat. Ahead of them, the hills rose soft and green, washed clean by wind. At the top of the ridge, Mara turned and looked back one last time. Do you think they'll ever believe the truth? She asked. Elias tipped his hat low. Maybe not, but truth don't need believers. Just time. She smiled then, a real one this time. And as they rode on, the land opened wide around them, the kind of wide that makes a person feel small and free all at once. That night, they made camp beneath the stars. Elias lay back, listening to the crickets and the slow rhythm of her breathing beside the fire. Maybe he'd saved her life. But deep down he knew she'd save what was left of his. The wind moved through the grass, whispering the same old song the West had always sung, that no one's past is too heavy to carry, and no one's soul too lost to find its way home. If this story stirred something in you, if you believe kindness can still stand tall in a hard world, tip your hat, hit that subscribe button, and ride with us through the next tale of courage, love, and redemption out here in the Wild West archives. Because some stories don't just end, they stay with you long after the dust settles.